In this video, I'm going to show you how to create complex table of contents formatting and numbering that reflects the numbering that you have in your content chapters. So stick around. I'm Rick Miller with Pulp-Free Press. I use FrameMaker to create and publish complex technical books and user manuals. And in this series, I'm sharing the tips and tricks that I've learned through my years of using this wonderful, wonderful publishing tool. In this video, I'll start with an overview and then clearly define the problem that we're trying to solve, especially when it comes to creating complex table of contents that have formatting and numbering. Everything relates to paragraph styles, so I'm going to spend some time talking about the relationship between your content chapters and the paragraph styles that you use and how they map to the table of contents. If you've ever generated a table of contents in FrameMaker, you'll know that it's very bare bones when you hit that generate button for the first time, and it can be very depressing. But once you figure out the secret of the relationship between the paragraph styles in your content chapters and the TOC styles that are generated by FrameMaker, then everything falls into place and it starts to make sense. And then I'm going to give a demonstration. I'm going to walk through the conceptualization of a table of content structure, create the document paragraph styles, generate the table of contents, and then select the paragraph styles to include in the TOC, and then format those table of content paragraph styles such that you can, attain the table of contents that you have envisioned. So the ideas for this video came when I wanted to create a new table of contents format, layout, and numbering scheme. If you look at the table of contents on the left, there's boilerplate, like for example, there you see like an introduction heading and like all the headings underneath of like the preface to the second edition and the preface to the first edition. I kind of wanted to just get rid of that stuff, right? The problem was those are all using the same type of headings, right? So in other words, if in the document, the heading or the topmost heading for each section, right, of a content chapter will be generated into the table of content as like, let's say I use a heading for the topmost heading of a section called heading, right? That's the name of the paragraph style. And then when when you generate a table of contents, it'll generate a heading TOC. Okay, so if you include the heading TOC in your table of contents, then every place you've used that heading TOC will be used, okay, or show up. So when I set out to create a new look and feel for a table of contents, I got rid of a lot of the boilerplate headings like introduction and skill building exercises in order to trim down that table of contents and focus on the essential content of the book versus the projects and exercises, because every chapter has those, right? And I know these are technical books, right? So you probably wouldn't even have to go through this for a non-technical book. However, the lessons do carry over, all right? So this is what we're focusing on in this video, is how do you tailor the table of contents, and you'll learn that it takes first thinking about what headings you want in your content documents and how those headings are going to be used. So for example, the detailed contents with the black header on the right hand side, the preface, part 1. So preface those are titles, right? Like part 1, first steps, that's a title heading. And then chapter 1, part 1, preliminaries, that's a title, paragraph style. And then you see still on the right hand side, 1 dot initial housekeeping. Okay, that is a content heading. In other words, and it has a number, 1, right? So, and then everything underneath of it is outline numbered, okay? So that's the look and feel I wanted to achieve, right? So that's how, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, is how to get that type of look and feel, right? So let's talk about, let's clearly define the problem. You want to create a table of contents with heading numbering that reflects the heading numbering that's found in the corresponding chapter of your book, right? So I'm assuming that you've watched the first video in this series, how to create the complex book structure, right? So each of these chapters, these FrameMaker documents are separate, right? So they're separate documents. Each one's considered a chapter, unless it has a special purpose like the TOC or the list of figures. All right, so I wanted to have outline numbering only applied to the paragraph styles that contained like meat of the book, right? Not the introduction, not the exercises. Okay, so you can see that there's a correspondence between the headings, the numbered headings in an actual chapter, and the numbered headings in the table of contents. However, the numbering does not carry over. What you want, you want that effect. But in FrameMaker, if you haven't already tried to do this and failed, right, and got totally fed up and frustrated, that's because there is no correspondence between the formatting of a particular paragraph style in a document and the formatting of that corresponding TOC paragraph style in the table of contents. There is a correspondence between the paragraph style name and the paragraph style that's generated in the table of contents. Okay, and we'll get into that here in a second. You may also want to include or omit headings to achieve a certain pedagogical or aesthetic objective, right? So in other words, I put a title in my documents. On the right-hand side, you see Chapter 1, a bash build script, or Chapter 11, bash build script, and then you see some small text. That's a title. I usually turn that white text and hide it in the final book, right? You can't tell when you generate it into a PDF that it's there. However, that title then is used in the table of contents to provide the chapter numbering, the chapter title for the table of contents, and then underneath of that chapter title comes the other paragraph styles that contain the meat of the chapter. Okay, so this formatting enables you to achieve that, either take the content from the document or the chapter in FrameMaker and map that content that you want in the TOC, or structure your table style, your paragraph style such that you can omit some of that stuff. You don't necessarily want everything in your table of contents, right? You want to include some of the the paragraph styles that contain the meat of the content. Okay, so and I'll go back here, while you want to include like the title and include like the numbered paragraphs, there's a lot of different paragraphs that you want to exclude. Okay, so for example, on the right-hand side, you see skill building exercises, suggested projects, self-test questions. Those have no numbers. And I'll go back to like the introduction. That's the learning objectives page here. So you see introduction has no number, right? I don't want that heading in the TOC, right? So that'll be a different paragraph style. Then the other issue too that we have with these table of contents in FrameMaker is you can't auto number. If you want a complex TOC like the ones that we're trying to achieve, or I'm trying to achieve in this video, you can't use the auto numbering just flat out in the TOC and expect it to work, right? So you have to do some finessing, and that's what I will show you. So to quickly review this third section here, the problem, or the definition of the problem, is you want to include some of the paragraph styles in the table of contents. You want to include the paragraph styles that include the meat of the chapter or the topic that you're discussing in that chapter in the TOC. Well, at the same time, you want to omit a lot of boilerplate stuff in order to, especially if it's a big book, to reduce the size of table of contents, right? People know that at the end of every chapter, there's a skill building exercises, suggested projects, right? You don't necessarily need to have that in the table of contents. The underlying concept of creating complex table of contents begins with paragraph styles. So in your FrameMaker documents, your chapters of your book, if you wanted to have a numbered or outline numbered scheme, you would have to create a set of paragraph styles that would allow you to implement this numbering scheme. And depending on the complexity of what you wanted to achieve, that would dictate how many paragraph styles you created. Okay, FrameMaker is extremely powerful. I mean, super duper powerful, right? So sometimes it takes a while to wrap your head around just the possibilities that this tool offers. Okay, but every chapter will have a set of paragraph styles. All right, and then once you generate a TOC, there's a correspondence between the paragraph styles that are in your document and the paragraph styles that are included in your TOC. So in this particular diagram, the chapter's paragraph styles are on the far right, and then in the center are the paragraph styles for the TOC, which include paragraph styles for a regular document because it is a document, okay, but it's a special type. It's a table of contents. However, there's a correspondence between like whichever headings or paragraph styles I selected. So for example, I have a first content heading, a subheading, and general headings, okay? So I don't have an arrow on the general headings, but they're in here, okay? Or I should say they're not in there, right? Because I didn't want the general headings to be included. So on this TOC, anything with a TOC as a style was a style that I selected from the document to be included in the table of contents, okay? So there will be a set of styles that you create in order to create a look and feel for your chapter and the outline and the contents of that chapter and the numbering sequence. And then if you want certain of those styles to be included in your TOC, then you'll select those when you generate the table of contents, and it will generate a corresponding paragraph style with a TOC appended. So for example, first content heading, and then it generates a first content heading TOC, which is then, generated in the TOC and shows up here, right? Now this numbering is not carried over from the paragraph numbering in the chapter. You have to format that separately in the TOC. I'll show you how to do that in the demo section. Okay, and then once again, like I just said, the numbering does not carry over. So in other words, this is the first content heading, this one baseline build.sh script heading down here. And if you look up here, it's first content heading. Okay, that's the name of the style. And it has a numbering NH, which is like a series that labels the numbers as belonging to a group, right? Numbering group, I guess, in FrameMaker parlance. And then n equals 1. So every time I apply this heading, I want that number to start with 1, and then every subsequent heading that's a content heading will have n plus, which will then increment that, right? I don't want the introduction to be numbered, so that's a different heading altogether, which is not included in the TOC, okay? And like I said, I'll demonstrate what this means shortly. And then generating TOC, and this is also, too, something I've just said, generates a style with the suffix TOC appended to it, okay? But the formatting does not transfer over. You have to format this TOC, this table of contents, to get it to look like this, which is pretty easy to do, right? However, you still have to have the headings. Like I say, there's a correspondence between the heading names or the paragraph style names, right? And then the paragraph style names that get generated in the TOC. So once you understand that concept, then I think you have about 99% of the the understanding of what needs to be done. So let's go ahead and demo what I'm talking about. So for this demonstration, I am starting with a blank book, a very short blank book, and it contains a part page, which is this one right here. They all look the same. They have no content in them. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I think what I want to do is, first off, show you up in this section here that in the upper right, I'm in the Paragraph Catalog tab. I can't expand this to make it bigger. So sorry, it's going to be kind of small text on your screen. But it only comes with a handful of styles, right? You've got body, bulleted, cell body, cell heading, footnote, heading 1, heading 2. I usually don't use those. You could delete them. I just leave them there. What I do is I will make custom headings for the type of content that I want in my chapters. Okay. And then, of course, I'll use master pages to customize the look and feel of the layout of the page itself, right? And there's I have a video on master pages and reference pages, right? But you're going to have to know a little bit about this stuff in order to get the look of your book the way you want, even in the table of contents. So we'll get to that here in a second. So I'm going to start with chapter 1, okay? And the purpose of this is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you like a simple content chapter with one type of heading with subheadings. I'm going to have a major heading like a heading, subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3, and that'll be fine for here. And then show you how the numbering works for those types, right, in the document, and then generate the table of content and show you the problem that you'll run into when you have multiple chapters. Okay, now also too, note that in FrameMaker, you can set the numbering for each of these chapters, right? Because you have a book here. I'm going to set the numbering for chapter 1, and it's set right here for chapter 1. So it says 1, okay? And then for this one, for chapter 2, chapter number 2, boom, like that, set. Okay. Now, where does that come into play? So here, if I select chapter 1, and you have variables. I need to do a whole video on variables, right? But if I insert chapter number, then you'll see it's 1. Let me make that text a lot bigger, right? Let me just make that bigger here. So 12 point. I'm going to make that 36 point. Okay, there we go. So you see, and it's orange because I have my FrameMaker set to highlight variables in orange, right? Now, if I open chapter 2 and I put in the chapter number variable, it's 2. All right, so let me make that big, 36. Okay, so that's the beautiful thing about chapter numbering, right? And of course, you have all kinds of other different things, right? So I can have section numbering, but that doesn't usually affect your table of contents, all right? So what I'm going to do is go back. I can take out this variable. Just delete that. And let me go back to chapter 1, and I'll delete this one here. So what I'm going to do is just start off by creating some headings. So I'm going to say heading, and this is what I recommend you do, right? Like when you first create a book, then you just say heading, subheading, like subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3. You know, you don't need the underscores in here, right? These aren't the names of the subheadings. These are just the paragraph text that's going to show up in each of these headings. All right, so then this text will be, this is just going to be body text. Right now, all these are body. If you look over here, body is bold right here, right? So if I select body, even though I temporarily change the size, I could select all these, make them body text, and they go back to the original size, which is 12 point. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I know it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to increase the size to 120%. Now for the heading, I need to create a new paragraph. So you go from the paragraph catalog, you select the paragraph designer tab, and you just type in the new name of the heading. So I'm going to just call this heading. Heading, not heading 1, just heading. And it's going to have 0 indent, left aligned, no tab stops, and next paragraph tag will be body. Okay, oops, let me just select body. Okay. And then apply, and then go to the font. I'm sorry. This isn't heading. This is heading 1. Heading. There we go. Heading, apply. Okay. So go back to heading. All right. So I'm in my, so this is heading. I've got heading up here. Next paragraph tag will be body, apply. Make sure you apply, right? And then if you have multiple, if you already have a whole bunch of these headings in there, which we will in a second, then you got to hit update style as well. So now I want to change the font. So I click the font tab, and I'll change it to something interesting for a heading. Doesn't really matter. But let's see here. New Times Roman. I like Peoria for headings. Depends on what you're doing, right? So I'm going to change this to like 18 point, hit apply. I'll make it 24 points so you see it better. 24 point, apply. And underneath, let's see here. I'm going to go to, so I've applied it. I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to say frame below, page box, standard space, frame above. I'm going to say a single line, frame below, a single line, apply. Okay, so there we go. That's how you get a line on top. If that's what you want for your heading, right? I'm just going to apply that, update the style. Okay, so that's my heading, paragraph style. Now I'm going to work on subheading 1. So right now this is a body. So when I click on that, that's a heading. I click on subheading 1, and it's still a body, so I need to type in subheading 1, and hit apply. Okay, now that creates, right, subheading 1, that creates the paragraph style. And then just go in here and tweak. So the basic is fine. I'm going to create, I'm going to set the font to maybe Peoria, and size will be, I'll make it, let's see, I made that at 24. I'll make that 18. Hit apply. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller than the heading text, and perhaps I will make it, I'll just leave it just like that. Okay, so a little bit smaller, right? Left aligned, hit apply. Now that's my subheading 1. All right, so now I'm going to do subheading 2. Okay, so just call this subheading 2. Subheading 2, hit return. And I'll make that text 14 point. This time I'll make it oblique, italic, apply, change the font to Peoria. All right. There we go. Apply. All right. And then for subheading 3, so that's subheading 2. For subheading 3, I'll leave it at 12 point. So just name it. Subheading 3, hit apply. And keep that, change this to Peoria. All right. And 12, hit apply, just like that. So now let's apply numbering, right? So I will, well, actually, let's just see what we have for the table of contents at this point. So now I have, so I'm going to save this chapter. So I'm in chapter 1 here. What I will do is I'll copy this and come down here. So those should, oh, I needed to change subheading, that's body. I need to go back to subheading 3. I need to make these body. All right, I need to select subheading 3, go back to paragraph designer, and go back to basic and say next paragraph tag. Body. Apply. Update style. Remove overrides. Okay. So go back to 2. Do the same thing. Next paragraph tag. Body. Apply. Update style. And subheading 1. Just making sure I've got this selected. Body. Apply. Update style. Okay. Heading. Okay, heading's fine. Subheading's fine. And okay, now we've got our 3 subheadings. Now I'm going to copy these and just paste a few of them in here. All right. Now you can change the text here, right? We're just trying to put a little content in here from the heading perspective so that when we generate a table of contents, we can actually see something. All right, so now we just come up here to the book, right click, actually just go insert, create table of contents. And so now this is where you get to select which of the paragraph styles you want to include. So I don't want to include body. I want to include heading. So I'm going to hit OK, or I'm going to hit that arrow. I don't want heading 1, heading 2. I want subheading 1, subheading 2, and subheading 3. Now you can, so once you get all these in there, you just hit OK. And then just click OK, right? It's going to just generate a file called simplebook.toc. Hit update. And what it does, it goes through and reads all your chapters and looks for those styles and then puts them in your TOC, and then it adds it to your book. So right up here is our TOC. So now we have a new document created by FrameMaker. But if you look, right, it's just really boring. Okay, that's because the formatting in these headings here, right? Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is very boring, okay? That's because none of the formatting in your chapter is applied when you generate the TOC, right? So you have to format all this stuff individually. But the important part is we go to we've got the table of contents selected. I'll close chapter 2 for now. And I like to put this over here and close the welcome screen. So the table of contents is on the left. If I select my paragraph catalog, what we see now, if I select heading, where it says heading 1, right? Then it has heading TOC, right? That is the style. Subheading, that is subheading 1 TOC. Subheading 2. Now, this extra, the one that you see right here, right? 1. Let me make this bigger. This is your TOC as it was as it gets originally generated. That 1 is the page number, right? It's just there's subheading 1 and there's the page number where that appears. They're all on page 1. All right. So this is the boring TOC that you get. But when you select the heading, like for example, subheading 2, its style in the TOC is subheading 2 TOC. That's the relationship between the chapter, you know, the styles that you have in a FrameMaker document, heading, and it maps to heading TOC in the table of contents. Okay, so now that we have that relationship solidified, let's move on to actually formatting the table of contents, okay? Before we format the table of contents, though, let's actually add numbering, right, to this to the headings in your chapter, right? So this is fairly straightforward. But the way that you do that is you go back to your paragraph designer, you select the heading, and you go to the numbering tab, okay? And so you select auto-numbered paragraphs. Now, you can select the format, and here's your building blocks, right? So if you want heading to... there's also this feature called... like numbering groups, right? So I usually start a numbering group with a H for headings. All right, so then I will do N plus, right? And we'll just apply that and see what it does. Okay, so you got the 1 up here, so I'm going to add a space. Oh, actually, I'll add a period. There we go. And then a space. I add a period and a space, apply. Okay, so I got my 1, right? So now if I update the style, it'll say, okay, I've started with N plus. It's going to start at 0, right? Unless something above it increments N, and then H2, and then 2 and 3. So I've got heading, that's my first heading, second major heading, third major heading. Now, for a heading outline, I want the subheading to be 1.1, 1 point, and then this will be 1.1.1, right? So we'll see. So let's go now, select your subheading, go to numbering, click auto number, and this too will be, I'll just do H for your H group. Okay, so this will be N, right? So we're using these building blocks, and I know this is really small, and I apologize, right? So what I'm doing is I'm building up the, it's like an angle bracket N, okay? So I'm using these building blocks down here in this text box, and I'm saying N. So whatever N is, so when the heading sets like 1, then N is equal to 1, right? So then I want to say 1 point, and then N plus, okay, and then a space, and I'm gonna hit apply and see what that does, and that looks okay to me, right? And then update style. So now you saw that all of them updated, right? So now I'm going to select heading 2 and do the same thing, or subheading 2. So H, and then N point N plus space, apply, update style. Okay, so there's my heading 2, and then for subheading 3, auto number, and I'm going to start it with my group H, N, point N, point N, point N plus, space, apply. Okay, if you want something like this, right? Now, here obviously, right, there's another heading down here. I'm going to change that to body. So you see that numbering goes away. Control save. Alrighty. Now, the way that you update the table of contents is you just right click and you click on this regenerate. It's called update book, right? So when you update your book, it'll say, oh, you want to regenerate everything? So sure. It's not going to have any effect on the numbering in the table of contents. I just wanted to show you this process. So your table of contents remains the same. Very boring, right? Now, before I move on to formatting the table of contents, I want to show you how you perpetuate these styles into another paragraph, into another document, right? So I'm going to I'm going to open. So I've got chapter 1 open, right? And I'm going to say, oops, just going to right click here. So I right click on chapter 2 and I'm going to say file, import, formats. Now everything is selected. I don't want to import everything. That could be dangerous. So deselect all and select paragraph formats and character formats and then select the document you want to import from. So I want to import formats from chapter 1 and hit OK, import. And I'm going to do the same thing for part pages. Okay, so file, import, formats. The second time you do it, all the same decisions should be made for you, right? So just import everything from 1. Now when I go into chapter 2, okay, let me open chapter 2. All right. Now if I select that, make that body. Okay, now if I type heading, subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3, like that, right? And I click on it, you'll see my new styles are in here. So heading, boom, right? I select that, and then I go to subheading 1, and the auto numbering's applied. Oop, that's 3. I should have selected 2, and then 3. All right, and then if you copy those, this is just giving us some content to display in the table of contents. Come down here, hit return, or hit paste. Okay. Heading 2, and then one more time, heading 3. So you see that the numbering is working for the document. All right, and now for part, I'll get to part in a second. Alrighty, so I've got 2 chapters worth of content. I'm going to update my book, and we should see that content added to the table of contents. It's not going to be pretty, but it's in there. And there we go, right? So now I'm going to show you how we manage this table of contents and show you like some of the issues that we have with numbering and why you're going to want to add special additional headings, paragraph styles in order to control your table of contents. All right, so see you in the next section. Here we are in the table of contents. It's an ugly baby. And that's the way FrameMaker kind of spits it out. This really can be very depressing if you're new to FrameMaker and you see this, and especially if you come from Microsoft Word where it's like magic, things happen. But, you know, the thing about Microsoft Word is, you know, it lets you do a few things, you get to the 80% point pretty fast, and then when you want to tweak things, you find that your hands are tied. It's kind of the opposite with FrameMaker where you're like, how do I do something? But once you figure it out, you realize you're an unbridled horse. You just run as fast as you want. Okay, so heading, all these things that have been added to the TOC, they have TOC in front of them, right? Well, you still have a heading, right? If I applied heading, boom, it still wouldn't do it. I'm sorry, that's heading 1, right? So if I have heading in here, where's heading? Oh no, I didn't apply, right? So I didn't import those things here. So I'm just going to go back to heading TOC, right? In other words, what I meant to say is I didn't import the formats from chapter 1. So the heading format is not in here. So anyway, let me regenerate just to make sure I'm starting with a clean slate. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, let me just close this and regenerate. So book TOC, regenerate, update. Because the page number went off. And I think I know what happened there too. Okay, so I've regenerated the book. And let me save this file and open up the TOC. Okay, well actually this is a good demonstration as well. So notice that the page number got dropped, right? That's because I selected another type of a paragraph style. So but this is now heading TOC. And this is subheading TOC. So I want to format heading TOC, but there's 2 parts to formatting these styles. The first part you can do like you would format an ordinary style. Like for example, if I want to change the text of this heading TOC, right? I go into Paragraph Designer and I go to Font. Or, font, right? Let's say I want to make it Peoria. I'm losing my alphabetized down here. Peoria. Okay, I can't see. It's so small, even to me. And I'll make this 24, apply. Okay. That's pretty big, but I want you guys to be able to see it. So heading 1, all right, that's Peoria. And the next thing that you want to do is for a table of contents, if you want like a leader, right? So I'm going to set a tab. So I go out to Basic, and I'm going to say, I'm going to edit, and I'm going to create a new position. I'll say 7. Left aligned. Let's try 6.8, 6.9, 6.8, something like that. Left aligned. I want a leader. I'll select dots. Second one down. Doesn't matter. No repeat. And hit continue. That's too far to the right. That's what I thought, right? So let's go new position. I'll just go 6, right? Just to see how that works. Although it looks like we should be able to do that. So 6, alignment. I mean, maybe it's alignment to the right. 6, continue. Let me edit this. I'll do 6 point. Let me do 7. Too far to the right. I'll start with 6 and then I'll tweak it. So continue. Now, we're not going to see anything here because we got to go to our reference pages. So let's go to the reference pages. Save this first. Go view reference page. And then you got to scroll down. These reference pages can be quite intimidating until you get down here to this section right here. It's usually on the last page of your reference page. But here, you can ignore this open XML element, this stuff here, you can ignore. But we got paratext and page number. Paratext and page number. Paratext and page number. All right? So let's go to paratext and we'll see that's subheading 2, that's subheading 3, That's subheading 1, and that's heading TOC. It doesn't really matter what order these are in, but I'm kind of anal retentive. I like to, you know, reorder them. You don't certainly have to do this. This is heading 2 TOC, subheading 3, subheading 1. I'll just do this. Boom, like that. All right. And then save. Now, paratext, let's go to font. All right, it still says New Time Roman. But I'm going to add a tab in here. Tab. And, all right, so heading TOC, font. I know what I didn't do last time. Let's go back. So I put the tab in there. So save. Let's go back to the body pages. We're on heading TOC. Excuse me. Basic. All right. Edit. I'll say 6 to the, I'll keep it to the left. Continue. Apply. And update style. Now we see we got the headings have been perpetuated. So I've updated the style. I'm going to go to the reference pages again. Now we see, oh, I need to add a leader. So I'm sorry. So I'm going to go back to the body pages. Body pages, like heading, edit, select that tab stop, edit, and align it to the right. And then select the dots for the leader, continue, apply, update style. Now we got to go back to the reference pages, view reference pages. So we see it here, right? Alrighty. So now what I want to do is save, and then I want to regenerate. So update. Now let's go back to the body pages. Oh. Save. View body pages. Now we've got our leaders. All right. So it all shows that they're on 1. So now let's go to chapter 1, and we see that that's page 1, and chapter 2, and that says 1 of 1. Okay, so what we have to do in order to fix this TOC, right? Everything's on page 1, which is obviously they're not. We need to go back and fix the numbering. So for chapter 1, I'm going to click on numbering, and then continuing. So for the page number, first page, continuing numbering from the previous page in the book. So set. All right. For chapter 2, same thing. So for page, continue numbering from previous page in the book. Set. There's a couple different ways of setting pages, right? All right, or page numbering. Same for the part pages. Numbering. Page, continue from previous page in the book. Set. Save your book. Regenerate. All right. You got to kind of remember to update and regenerate every time. Now for your table of contents, let's go ahead and just look at it. There we go. Now we have page numbers associated with our headings. We don't need to go any deeper necessarily into the page numbering. That could be a whole nother video. But now we have page numbers associated with these headings. So to recap what we have so far, before I go on to the next section, is your chapters, like chapter 1, has headings Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. You got your paragraph styles. There's your paragraph style catalog. Heading 1, you've got auto numbered, right? Everything in here, you're looking at it and it says, wow, that looks beautiful, right? That's beautiful. Okay. So essentially you've got chapter 1, and then you got section 1 in chapter 1, section 2 in chapter 1, section 3 in chapter 1, and then in chapter 2, you've got section 1 in chapter 2, section 2 in chapter 2, section 3 in chapter 2, or heading 1, 2, and 3, right? And then everything looks good. And now you're like, I'd like that to be in my table of contents. All right, I want that numbering to be reflected in my table of contents so that when the table of contents shows a chapter, and we're not even talking about, we don't even see the different chapters here, right? So we have to talk about those too. So in the next section, I'm going to show you how do you then get chapters to show up in your table of contents? How do you number your table of content headings to reflect the numbering in your chapter, in your chapter documents? Okay, so seeing you in the next section. Here we are once again in our TOC, and a quick recap. I've only formatted the heading, right, which is heading TOC. I added a tab for the page number. We can tweak that. We can see that it's got some space left in it, right? So then, heading, so we need to format subheadings and figure out how we can get chapters in there, and then apply some auto numbering to see. All right. Alrighty, so let's work on the subheading. This is the same thing as formatting the headings, okay? So you got subheading 1 TOC. So you select it, you go to Paragraph Designer, and select Basic. Okay, I'm going to create a new tab stop. So I'll say 6, left leader. I mean, it's left aligned. There's a leader. Continue, apply, and update style. And then for the font, I'm going to select Peoria. Peoria, I'll give it 18 and apply. And I think I'll come over a little bit, right? So go back to basic, and first I'll just say the left is 0.12, something like that. Or maybe point. I'll go 0.12. That's fine. Let's apply that. Update style. Okay. First is on 0. Okay. We're only ever going to have a first line. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's do 0.12 here as well. Apply. There we go. Now we got the little indent. Okay. And we might want to alter this, but rarely these headings are going to wrap around to the next line. I'll put that back at 0. Apply, update style. Now, for the tab stop, right, you're not going to see the tab stop with the leader until we actually go to the reference page. So we're on heading 2. It doesn't matter what's selected here. We're going to go View, Reference Page. We're going to select heading 2. You can see that the formatting that we applied has been applied, right? But to add the tab, let me see. So I'm pretty sure I'm not losing my mind, right? Let's go back to, let's view master page. No, I'm pretty sure this has to be done, right? But let's try it anyway. Let's go back to body page. And here I'm just going to add a tab. Boom. So there's the tab. If I apply and update style, okay, apply, update style, and let's just regenerate, see what happens. Update. Okay. Save. Notice that these other ones, even subheading, it went away. So I don't know if you noticed that, right? So tab, right? Apply, update style, regenerate, update, boom. See, it went away. So you can't put the tab in the body page. You have to change view. Whoops, save it. You have to change the view to the reference page and put the tab here. Okay. And let's go back to that tab. Yeah, that tab should be fine. So apply, update style. Now let's go back to the body pages. All right. So now let's regenerate. Update. Now we've got our heading, subheading 1 with our tabs, right? Now we rinse and repeat. So go back for the subheading 2. Same thing. I'm going to do a tab. I'm going to add a tab stop. Okay. At 6 with a leader, left aligned. Continue. Apply. Update style. Go back for the font. Select Peoria. And select 14. Apply. Update style. So that all these have been changed. And I'm just going to knock out subheading 3. So I'm going to leave subheading 3 the same size. I'm going to change its, obviously, its font to Peoria. Apply, update style. The other thing I might do is indent even further, right? That's one thing I forgot to do. So update style. I'm going to come back to basic. This is for subheading 3. I'm going to say 0.5 for the first line. 0.5. Apply, update style. And then for subheading 2, so select subheading 2. And for the first line, 0.25, apply. This is personal preference, right? This is all personal preference, what you want to do. So now you've got your headings. Each one has a tab. We have to go now save your table of contents and then view your reference pages and then add the tabs, right, for these. Don't worry about how these things look. I must have not did the tab for paragraph subheading 3. Save it, return to your body pages, select subheading 3, any one will do, right? Edit, give it a tab stop, 6, left, okay, continue, apply, update style, and then you got to regenerate, update. All right, so there's all your headings, right? Now this still looks kind of crowded, I should say, right? Because there's no spacing, and I'm kind of doing this for demo purposes. All right, so we've applied some basic formatting to our table of contents. Save. Now let's say, oh, I want to auto number, right? Maybe it's still a little bit too early to try the auto numbering. But if we tried auto numbering here, what we would find is, well, I just say this. Before we do the auto numbering, let's get this thing organized by chapters, okay? So we're going to have to add another heading. So let's go to the next section, add the chapter differentiation between these different, like we want to see which one's chapter 1, what page chapter 1 starts on, which page chapter 2 starts on, okay? So we're going to add another paragraph style to track our chapter title, all right? So see you in the next section. Okay, still at the TOC. I'm going to reduce that to it's not quite so blaring. Save. Let's go to chapter 1. Now, the way I like to do this is I like to put I generally don't start my chapters this starkly, right? I usually have a master page which has like a graphic or something, right? But what I usually do is I come up to the top. Let me make this a heading of the paragraph or of the frame of the document. Okay, so that's my heading. This is body for now. And then up at the very top, I will add a, like, I'll do this. I'll do chapter. You could do it any way you want. Chapter, and then I'll use the chapter number variable, chapter 1, right? And then maybe a space or whatever, right? So chapter 1 dash, I'll say some topic. Oh, chapter 1. Oops. How to create paragraph styles. And then what I can do, well, then I'll do the same thing. So chapter 1, now this, I usually have this embedded in my document. Okay, this is just the way I do it. And I'd have to put my mind to like another better way of doing this, right? But what I do is I'll say, and you could totally have this as part of your title, but I generally have this separate because my titles are usually graphics, or my chapter master pages have graphics in them and big text, right? So I usually don't apply a style. That's usually freely done, right? Like with a graphical design. So there's one paragraph in here that I'm going to call, I'm going to go to Paragraph Designer, and I'm going to call this chapter title. Chapter underscore title, and apply. Okay? And then this is usually not auto-numbered, right? The only thing that's auto-numbered is the variable that I placed in the chapter number here, right? So now I've added this new paragraph style, and I'm going to go back. So I'm in the designer, and what I usually do is I will center it. I'll center this, apply, and then I'll go to the font, and I'll make it smaller. So like 9 points, right? So apply. All right, even smaller, right? I usually leave it black when I'm editing, right? But then when I'm done like editing the book, I'll go back and change this style to white, right? So you can't see it when it comes out. All right. So anyway, chapter 1, how to create paragraph styles. So then I'll do the same thing, but what I need to do now is, so I've applied, right? Update my style. I can leave it Times New Roman. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select chapter 2 now, and I'm going to import the formats. So I got the same thing. I'm going to import from chapter 1. I got chapter 2 selected, and import. So now I've imported in chapter 2 this heading. So if I go to my this chapter title, so there's the chapter title right there. So I'm just going to come up here and come down. I'm going to reapply. I'll make this body for now. Make this heading. So once you get, like you do have to put some upfront work. I'm just going to apply chapter title, and then CHAPTER, chapter, and then use the variable chapter number. It's going to be 2. I know you can't see it because it's super small. 2, and then I'll say, I'll just say a table of contents auto numbering. All right. And then hit save. So go back to chapter 1 and save. So now what you do is you want to add that new style, okay, to the table of contents. So I'm going to do right click and Let's see here, pagination. All right, so just hit regenerate. Oh, update. No, that's not it, right? So I have to do right click, insert, create TOC. Okay. And now, okay, so cancel. Okay, so right click your table of contents and you'll see setup table of contents, right? If you try to generate a new table of contents, it'll just create a new one. Which might be, but you'd have to go through all the formatting again, right? That's kind of a pain. So you see the ones that are selected. You select chapter title now, move that over, and it goes up to the top. You can rearrange these things, right? But just leave them right there. So chapter title is going to come first, then the heading, then subheading 1, then subheading 2. All right, let's move subheading. Okay, I see. They're not, you can't drag them. Okay, so chapter title, heading, subheading 172. Okay, and okay. And then update. So now once it's done, let's go back to the TOC. Now we see we have our chapter titles in here. Now we have to format them as well. All right. So you've got chapter 1 and chapter 2. So the variable naming does take over, right? Because usually that variable just gets translated into text, right? Which gets pulled over. So chapter 1, I want to kind of create space, right, between the chapter headings and previous, chapter TOC content stuff. So this is chapter title, right? So I'm going to format it using the paragraph designer. So I'll make it, well, we'll pick something here. Maybe just not Courier. Well, I don't care. Courier, Adobe. I have Karl Marx, right? Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to make the chapter probably, I can make it 24 or 36, but I don't want to be too big, right? Color black, fine. And then for the chapter, I want to go back to basic. So first off, apply update style, right? So there's our basic format or font for the chapter title TOC. Go back to basic and space above. I'm going to put 2 lines above, or maybe, no. Yeah. 2 lines above. And again, the TOC probably wouldn't even be like this, right? There'd be like a title for your TOC. So this is all just the content of your TOC. And then below, 2 lines. And then left aligned and hit apply. Ooh, that's too much. So let's go back to space above, 1 line, and 1 line. Apply. That's fine. Update style. Okay, so now at least we have some. Save. Oop. Oh, yeah. All right, so save. All right. Alrighty, so still now we have to address this page number, right? So we're going to go into the basic for the title, chapter title TOC, edit the tab stops, give it a 6, left aligned, and maybe we have no leader, right? So continue. However, we're still going to have to go into apply, update style. We're still going to have to go into the reference page. All right, so now you see where it put it now, right? So it put it up here. That's fine. You can just leave it right there. Hit a tab, and then hit and then save, and then view body pages. All right, and then regenerate, update. All right, so you see that we have our tab put in there, but there's no leader. All right. You could also, to emphasize the chapter, you could just select that chapter style, go into Basic, or Advanced. Let's go to Advanced and put a frame below, single line. Just do a single line. Oops, that's above. None above. Single line. Apply. Update style. There we go. So now we have like a basic formatting of our table of contents and the chapters. Now let's check out auto numbering, right? So we save. Now you're thinking, okay, I want my TOC to have the same numbering as my chapter content. Now we'll do that in the next section for sure. Okay, still in our table of contents. It's looking pretty good, right? It's a bit glarish and big, but when you come back down to 100%, you're like, it don't look so bad. All right. A lot of this formatting really is simply for demonstration purposes, but you see now that there's a relationship between the paragraph styles that are in your document name only, right? The formatting does not carry over. And what appears, like the ones that are included in your table of contents, right? So the way I separate chapters is I create a chapter title, a chapter title style, and then in the TOC that translates to chapter, or to, if I select it, chapter title TOC. Okay, it's highlighted right there. So now let's see, I want to apply auto numbering, right? So we don't need to auto number this because it's like manual, chapter 1, chapter 2. We know what chapter we're in. So I want this to be heading 1, and then subheading 1.1, subheading 1.1.1, etc. Right? So let's try that. So I'm going to click heading, and I'm going to go to paragraph designer, numbering, and I want to say auto number paragraphs, and I'll call this H, right? And I'm going to say none plus, right? And if we, so right now I have, it's hard to see it, so I'll do a space, apply, update style. So let me, I got paragraph text symbols on, so let me get rid of text symbols. Okay, so you see right here what's going on, right? I've added auto numbering to this, and it says heading 1, that's fine, right? So you're on your first section, that's why you need multiple chapters to test this stuff out. You see that heading has 1, 2, 3. So far, so good, right, for chapter 1. But then you get to chapter 2, and you got heading 4, 5, 6, and I'm like, nope, that's not what I want, right? And it turns out that if you're only dealing with like heading TOC and subheading TOC, the subheadings are fine. It's your heading that's giving you the problem, right? Because your heading is just going to keep on incrementing, right? And so what you have to do, the solution to this dilemma, is you need to go back to your document and introduce another style. So this is the first content heading in the document. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go back to the designer, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to rename this one, right, to my first content heading. Alrighty. And then apply. So now that's changed. This still is heading, and that's a heading, but that's the first content heading in the document. All right, so now I'm going to go to numbering. I'll say for here, this is fine. Okay. I'm going to save this, Control Save. Select chapter 2, because what I want to do is I want to then perpetuate this style into my other paragraph. So then select chapter 2 and say import, formats, from chapter 1, import. So now it's in chapter 2 as well. So I go to chapter 2. Let me make it bigger. All right. So I select heading 1 and I go back to my paragraph catalog and I change it to first content heading and save it. Now I regenerate my table of content. Oh, actually what I need to do at this point is I need to right click on the table of content, set up table of contents, add first content. Okay. All right. And then update. Now we're going to have to do some work on the TOC. So heading 1, okay. So we come up here. Oh, right. So actually, let's do this. Let's go back, set up table of content. First content, I need to move it over. I didn't move it over. I knew something was going wonky there. Hit OK. Update. Okay. So now we have it there, right? So here, if we select it, it says first content heading. Now I need to format it, right? What I do is I'm going to, so this is, let's go to Paragraph Designer, see what heading the font was, 24 Peoria, right? So I'm just going to do first content heading, so Peoria, okay. Peoria, you may not, you know, obviously you're not going to have these fonts, right? But you select the fonts that you want. 24, apply, update style, all right? And then I'll go to basic, right? We're going to add a tab stop, 6, left aligned, the spaced out dots, continue, apply, update style, okay? Now for the numbering, we'll add the actual tab in the reference page in a second, but for numbering, we're going to say auto number paragraphs, and I'm going to say H colon, because that's my auto numbering group, n equals 1, apply. Okay. Now you see, right? Oh, and let me go back up here, space, apply. Alrighty. And then update style. All right. You can see here now that the first content TOC starts with 1 and then subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3, right? I haven't even auto numbered these yet, so we'll get to that in a second. Subheading 2, anyway, this is 1, 2, 3, and then this starts over at 1, 2, 3, like that. Save that, go to your reference page, add the tab. Once again, it doesn't really matter where all these things get put in your reference pages, right? They map to where you put them on your body page. Save that change. Go back to your body page, and we're going to do an update, generate. Remember to always update and generate to get the changes reflected from your reference page back to the TOC. Save that change. Okay, now we've got auto numbering that actually reflects what's in your documents, right? So we've got heading 1, right? We go back to chapter 1. That's heading 1. All right. So, in fact, we could name this. We could say, watch a cool video, right? Save that. Go back to your TOC, hit update. Okay. Oh, what a cool video. That's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say was watch. Freudian slip. Watch a cool video. Control save. All right. So then come back to TOC, refresh, update. Okay. Now for the subheadings, right? So the subheadings will be kind of like in your document, right? You want to pick up where it left off. So you go to numbering, auto number, and you just I'll keep the same group, H plus or H colon, n plus dot, I'm sorry, n, right? It's n because I want to take 1 point and then n plus, like that, space, apply, update style, all right? And then for subheading 2, auto number, so this will be in the same group, h, n dot n dot n plus, space, apply. And then for the subheading 3, auto number, this is for subheading 3 TOC. These are your TOC styles, right? The group H colon n dot n dot n dot n plus space apply update style. And you see that all your styles are updated with your auto numbering, and all your auto numbering is in sync with what your chapter auto numbering reflects. Control save. And if you regenerate this, update. Okay, so now if you added a new chapter and you copied those styles, then this would all be done for you, right? So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I have my FrameMaker source document here. All right, so chapter 2, I'm going to create a new folder called chapter 3, chapter underscore 03. And in this, I'm going to create a new document. So file, new document. Bring this over. I want a new portrait. Okay, I'm going to save it. Save. I'm going to save this in, I'm using a Mac, right? But FrameMaker, and this is probably the only negative part, FrameMaker only works in Windows, right? So I have to run a Windows VM, a Windows 10 VM I'm running, in order to use FrameMaker. It used to run on the Mac and on Solaris back in the day. That's how long I've been using it. All right, so FrameMaker, Simple TOC, chapter 3. So I'm going to call this chapter 3, right? Chapter 3, FM, save. And now I'm going to add to my book. So select the book and then do the plus for the file, and then navigate to the folder you just created and the document, and say add that document to the book, and then save the book. Okay, now there's no content in here, right? So I'm just going to go to chapter 2. Oops. And I'm going to copy everything in here. Control C. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm going to select chapter 3, and I'm going to import file, import formats from chapter 1. Now, we have all the same formats in chapter 1, or paragraph catalog. Okay. Control save. There we go. They finally showed up. Okay, now I'm going to copy. So Control V. All right, so now I have to set. See, it still says chapter 1 up here in the variable. So I'm going to go up here, right click. Oops, sorry. Right click. Numbering, continue numbering from previous section. That's the page, and then the chapter is going to be chapter 3, right? You could continue numbering. I like to put an absolute chapter number set. All right, so now that shows up as 3. All the heading numberings look good. Save it. Regenerate your table of contents. Update. And let's take a look at the TOC. Let's make that bigger. All right, well, anyway, I think that's fine. So chapter 1, chapter 2. I didn't change the text in chapter 2, right? But anyway, that's how you do it. Look, if you're having trouble doing this stuff and you need to reach out for a personal, like tutoring session, just give me look me up. I can help you out. I love FrameMaker. FrameMaker is a very powerful tool. Your imagination, once you figure out how to do this stuff, is the limit, right? Literally, that's how much power it gives you, right? So you can make your table of contents look any way you want. I think a lot of people stop with a simple table of contents because it is intimidating to wrap your head around exactly what you can do with FrameMaker. So that's it. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. And if you have ideas for other topics that you want, just send me an email at rick@pulpfreepress.com. That's rick@pulpfreepress.com. And have a great day.